Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarvavide Namaha. The teacher wants to explain the nature of the samsari. Who is the samsari? Meaning, who is the one that is going through the cycle of birth and death? Who is the one who is suffering from the experience of pleasure and pain? Who is the samsari? For explaining that, the discussion was started. Said in the introduction of verse 32, Abhaso yatri loke siddhantana abhasa angikritah. So there is ahankara, ahamvritti, and there is consciousness reflect in ahamvritti, that is called abhasa. Abhasa is same as reflection here. So there is something called abhasa, there is something called a reflected consciousness. It's a model. As though the consciousness, suppose consciousness was reflected, how would that be? That the nature of reflection is essentially controlled by the reflecting medium, in this case a mirror, and the bimba or the image that is reflected is independent of that. So tentatively the teacher says that these two are different. Mukhad anyah sukhabhasa yathadarshanukaratah is mukham, my face, which is called image or bimba. Mukhabhasa, avasa, pratibimba, reflection of my face in a mirror. Tentatively said that this reflection is different from the face. Why is it so? Adarshanukaratah. Because the reflection conforms to the mirror. And whatever be the characteristics of mirror, whether the mirror is straight, whether it is clear, whether it is distorted, whatever the nature of mirror is, that is what determines the nature of appearance of reflection. In that sense, reflection, this will be ahamvritti and the chidavasa. So what we call chidavasa, it conforms to the nature of reflecting medium ahamvritti. Here, mukhabhasa, the reflection of the face, conforms to the nature of the reflecting medium, the mirror. So how the reflection appears is controlled by the mirror, or determined by the mirror. But the face itself is independent. Adarsha ananuvartanat. Since the face does not in any way conform to the adarsha or the mirror, in that sense, the face is different and the reflection is different. Not the reflection is different, means independent. Not the reflection independent in the sense of enjoying independent satta, that's not the point. But whatever difference is visible, based on that it is said that reflection is different, image is different. In the Tika of verse 32 then said, Tathacha Grivastasya mukhasya adarshe pratibimbitasya. So mukham, the face, is that which is on the neck. So that is called grivastham mukham. Adarshe pratibimbitasya, so that mukham which is reflected in the mirror, adarshastata vaishishtyena bhasamatmaiva abhasatvam, that this pratibimbitasya, the reflection of the face which is on the neck, but reflection, adarshastata vaishishtyam, that reflection possesses a characteristic that it is in the mirror, looks like it is in the mirror. Adarshasthata, adarshastham, which is within the adarsha state of being in the mirror. So that is what the reflection is. Vishishtena, so reflection has that kind of characteristic that it appears to be within the mirror and its nature is determined by the nature of mirror. So abhasat, that is called reflection. Being reflected is that it appears to be in the mirror. However, tachana satyam, we are not saying that the reflection is really there. Mukhavyukta adarshe, what is called real is that which exists independently of anything, where reflection is totally dependent upon the mirror. Mukhavyukta adarshe tiryang nirikshyamaneva. The mirror can very well be there. The face is not there. When you look at the mirror in a horizontal way, then also the reflection is not visible. Meaning that reflection does not have the freedom to be there in absence of face or in absence of mirror also. Meaning that the reflection has a dependent existence. Therefore, you cannot call it real, nor can you call it non-existent because aparoksha pratibhana, because it is experience. So this is the classical situation of mithyatvam. We cannot say it is not there because it appears to be there. We cannot say it is there because it does not enjoy independent existence. Tasmad anirvachaniyeva abhasa, therefore abhasa, reflection cannot be categorized as is or not is. Sometimes real or unreal, so, but is and not is. These are the two categories we have to classify anything. Anything can be classified as is or is not. Whereas reflection does not fall in any of these classes. Reflection cannot be called is because it's not there in absence of mirror, absence of face. Nor can you say reflection is not because you very much see it when it is there. This is called mithya or anirvachaniyatvam. So, this is how the nature of reflection being determined. To ultimately determine the nature of samsara. So, this mirror and the reflection is a drishtanta. This is darshtantikamaha. What is meant to be indicated by the illustration, the illustrated is said in the next verse, verse 33. अहङ्कृत्यात्मनिर्भासः मुखाभासवदिश्यते मुखवत् स्मृत आत्मान्यः अविविक्तौ तौ तथैव च Ahankruti, seventh case of Ahankrut, Ahankruti, Ahankare. Call it Ahankara, call it Ahamvritti, by the way. What is that? The thought of the nature of I, the I thought, distinguished from the other thoughts, which are all Eka Ahankritanyasa Dantahkana Rupini. All the vrittis or thoughts in the mind can be classified in two categories, the subject thought and the object thought. So what is meant by the ahankara, ahamvritti, the subject thought? That is the primary thought, and other thoughts are dependent upon that thought. Manasam tu kim marga neva margarjavat vrittestu ahamvrittimashritaha. All the other vrittis are dependent upon, or at the source in ahamvritti. For a reference, the ahamvritti is independent of other vrittis. Therefore, aham kriti, ahankare, atmanirvasa. Call it nirvasa, avasa, reflection, pratibimba. Chetana, vatva, avasa. So just as the reflection appears as though it is a face or possesses, attributes of face, so also the reflection ahamvritti also possesses attributes of consciousness that is reflected. Chetanavat avabhasa. The reflection in the ahamvritti appears as though possessed of chetanavatvam, possessed of consciousness. So that is the reason why it is mistaken to be ahankara, I. Because I is a conscious entity, therefore, and this ahankara is felt like it is conscious, therefore, ahankara is taken to be I. Mukhabhasavat ishyate. So that aham, that chidabhasa. So the Panchadashikara is what? Chidabhasa. Abhasa of chit. Chita abhasa, reflection of chit in the ahamvritti. Mukha abhasavat is comparable to the reflection of the face. In what sense? Mukhat mukha pratibimbavat. So just as mukhat mukha pratibimbavat, just as mukha pratibimba is not really shuddhat atma bhinna ishyate. Although it is said that the pratibimba is different from bimba, but not in terms of satta. The satta, the existence of the pratibimba is not different from, or not independent of the existence of, therefore you cannot say, so, abhinna ishyate. Therefore, even this chidavasa also is said to be non-different from the Atma, because not independent of Atma. Although it is said earlier that the mukhabhasa is bhinna, mukhabhasa is different from mukha, so you could have said also chidabhasa is different from chit. So mukhabhasa dishyate. Chidabhasa is comparable to mukhabhasa. So whatever was said about mukhabhasa, the reflection of face, applies here in this model, because this is dashtanta. In one way, the mukhabhasa is different from mukha because mukhabhasa's nature is determined by the reflecting medium. Here also, nature of the chidabhasa is determined by the ahamvritti where it gets reflected. In that sense, it can be said to be different from the chit. And since Chit is not determined by the Aham Vritti, therefore it's different from Chidabhasa in that sense. But in terms of reality, Chidabhasa is not separate from Chit because its existence totally depends upon Chit. In that sense, Chidabhasa is not separate from Chit, but Chit is separate from Chidabhasa. So B is not equal to B is equal to A is not equal to B. The beggar is not separate from the actor is different from the beggar. Similarly, Chidabhasa is not separate from Chit, but Chit is independent of Chidabhasa. Mukhavat smrutah atma, atma mukhavat smrutah, Chidabhasa mukhabhasa vadishyate. Chidabhasa is comparable to mukhabhasa, atma is comparable to mukha. Atma Shuddha, not Jivatma, because that will be called Jivatma. So Shuddhatma, Abhasavat Anyah Smrutah, and Shuddhatma consciousness is said to be different from that Chidabhasa, the Ahankara. Pratibimbat Mukhavadityartah, just as face is said to be separate from reflection, so also the Atma is separate from the Chidabhasa. Separation being that Chidabhasa's nature is determined by Aham Vritti and Atma is not. In that sense, Atma is separate from Chidabhasa. It is separate because it enjoys independent reality that Chidabhasa does not. Mukhasya mukhabhasasya आदर्शस्य च आभासाश्रयत्वस्य प्रतीतितः भेदेपि. So mukhasya pratītitah bhedepi. Even the face appears to be different from the reflection because that face, the reflection appears to be in the mirror. And therefore the face is said to be separate from the reflection. Vastutah bhedabhava. Even though it is thought to be so, in reality the reflection is not separate from the image. So also Chidabhasa is not separate from Chit. Atmabhasa tad ashraya antahkaranadiram pratibhasato bhedepi. So also the reflected consciousness, antahkaranam, where it gets reflected, all of them, even though appearing to be different from Atma, Vastuta, it's just complicated. Simple things are complicated, that's all it is, in this language. So we are separate, not separate. This is a simple thing, that one is dependent reality, the other is independent reality. And therefore, Vastutah anat, just as the reflection is not in reality separate from image, so also Chidabhasa is not separate from Chit in terms of reality. It is a Paramartha Veda. Therefore, the Chidabhasa is not really separate from Chit, and Chit is really separate from Chidabhasa, we can say. Independent. So aviviktau tau tathaiva cha tau atma atmavaso tathaiva mukha mukhavasaiva was aviviktau. So they are not ultimately separate. Vivikta means separate, avivikta not separate. And therefore mukhavasa is just as not separate from mukham, Chidabhasa is not really separate from Chit. Paramartha bhedarahitau, therefore Chidabhasa does not enjoy a real difference, a distinction from Chit. Chakarat, abhasa, ashrayantahakaram. Similarly also, this aham-vritti is not separate from the Chit. So Chidabhasa is not separate from Chit. Aham-vritti, ahankaranam, all of these also are not really separate from Chit. Because all of them exist because of Chit. They all shine because of Chit. Therefore, aham-vritti or antahkarana, where aham vritti takes place, none of them is independent of the chit. And therefore, what is the Vedanta view of the Jivatma? Evam Chinmatram. What is only pure who is Jiva? Brahman is Jiva. Atma is Jiva, conscious Chinmatram. The pure consciousness alone is Jiva. This is what Vedanta says. Tatra anadi avidyayam tatkarya ahankarada pratibimbitam. That chit or consciousness first gets reflected in avidya, and from avidya comes this ahankara, etc. So, first the cause, which is avidya, which is where the consciousness first gets reflected on. Meaning avidya also enlivened by consciousness first, and then products avidya with aham vritti and other vrittis, all of them are enlivened by consciousness through avidya. Tadeva chidatma swarupam upadhisthata vaishistya adhyasavashat samsariti swamatam uktva swamatam. Tadeva chidatma swarupam. That same consciousness which is the nature of the self, it becomes qualified, becomes conditioned by upadhisthata. Just as the face as though becomes qualified by being in the mirror, so also consciousness becomes as though qualified by being in ignorance, and then the products of ignorance, aham vritti, etc., etc. So upadhisthata, just as face appears to be in the mirror, so also consciousness appears to be in the avidya, aham vritti, etc. Vaishistya, just as the reflection is determined by the nature of mirror, so also the Chidavasa's nature is determined by avidya and the aham vritti, etc. Vaishistya. Adhyasavashat, and further here, what that separateness, that chit or consciousness is separate from Chidavasa, that separation is not recognized. And therefore, the aham, the I-ness of the Atma is superimposed upon Chidavasa, and Chidavasa is thought to be Atma. That's Adhyasa. Adhyasa is I-ness that really belongs to Atma, is thought to belong to Chidavasa. Therefore, Chidavasa is taken to be Atma. So consciousness alone being reflected in ignorance and aham vritti is called Chidavasa. And therefore consciousness is Jivatma. Which consciousness? That which appears to be in the avidya aham vritti, which appears to be conditioned by them, and where there is the notion of I-ness. These things are required. Chidabhasa can be there, everything can be there, but if notion of I-ness is not, if that separation happens, this is all swabhavikam. That the consciousness gets reflected in avidya and aham vritti, etc., is swabhavajam. But that chit, that chidabhasa statement, atma is bhrantijam tadatmyam. So when is swabhavajam, that it is nature of the avidya and aham vritti to reflect consciousness wherever it is. But then it is taken to be I is bhranti. So that part alone, so it should, Vedanta very clearly defines what jiva, and what part you to address. You don't have to address the reflection in avidya or aham vritti, but that will take place anyway, even for a wise person. The difference between the wise and otherwise is the adhyasa, the I-ness that is superimposed upon that reflect Chidavasa, is where the viveka is required. is Swamatam Uktva. This Swamatam, all these elaborated nicely by Panchadashikara. So this Chidavasa, etc., all the express, I guess this comes from here only. In Panchadashi, Chidavasa is the expression commonly used. And Puja Swami reflected, he didn't like this reflected, but what else will you say? I don't know. This is a model. Reflected, but then say something else. Reflection is a model, is not, is not claimed to be a reality, it's just something to explain. तो दृढ़ीकरणाय एकदेशी मतं दूषयितुम् उत्थापयति. The other opinions also are considered. What is the notion of jiva in other people that also is taken for a discussion to make sure that this is what jiva is. Dhrudikaranaya, we understood the Siddhanta. In order for the Siddhanta to become firmly rooted in our mind, the other models also are presented here for us to understand that cannot be, and this alone can be. So verse 34 says, Samsari sacha ityeke आवासो यस्त्वहं कृतिः वस्तुच्छाया स्मृतेरन्यात् माधुर्यादि च कारणम्. आवासः इति एके. Some people think that yastu ahankruti samsari cha saha iti eke avasa yastu ahankruti. Yastu ahankruti avasa asmami prasuktaha. Ahankruti avasa means the avasa, reflection, ahankara, which we said is separate from Atma. To say that it is not Atma, separation was said to say that there is not Atma. Not separate in terms of reality, but separate in terms of nature, therefore, that Chidavasa is not Atma. So, but then other people say that alone is samsari. That Chidavasa, which we say is separate from Atma, therefore is not Atma, is the samsari, is Atma, is samsari, iti eke manyante. So some people believe that Chidavasa is samsari, understand. Remember what we say, Atma is samsari. Other people say that Chidavasa is samsari. Sounds right, but no, not from Chidavasa, doesn't have reality, it can't be samsari. Because it will be negated, then nobody will remain. After negation, whatever remains is the liberated one, so that was the bound one. Eke manyante ityartha. Alright, no. Avasasya avastutvat. But we say that avasa, the reflection, is not a reality because it is not independent of the bimba. Therefore, it can't be say is there, is not there, is mithya, so it's not a vastu, not a tangible entity. Tasya bandha mokshamagitya samsaritvam iti ashankya. Katham tasya. When this Chidavasa is not a real entity, how can there be samsari? Samsari must be a real entity. Because when the samsari goes, something real remains. If this fellow is samsari, it is not real, therefore it will samsari be eliminated. So how can you say Chidavasa is samsari? Avasa shabdena chitchayaya abhipretatvad. Call it avasa, call it chitchaya, call it reflection of consciousness. Chayahankarya reikyam. So the Drukdisha Viveka said, Taptayah pindavanmatam. That chaya, the reflected consciousness, ahankara, is like, they are sort of identified with each other, indistinguishable, like the iron ball in the fire. tasyasya vastutvat. Now this opinion says that chaya also is a vastu. A reflection or even a shadow also is a real thing. So that is why the shadow is taken to be samsari. Call it chaya, shadow, reflection. So how can the reflection be samsari? Because reflection is real, chaya is real. How? Second line, vastu, chaya. Chaya is vastu. Chaya means a shadow. It can be called reflection also, or a shadow is vastu, reality. Paramartha anakrama paramartha nakramet kama kamatah chayam gurvadeheti smuteheti yojana. It's stretching to ridiculous limits, but anyway, that chaya, the shadow also is real. Why is it real? Because the Smriti says. And so, this Shruti is a Manusmriti. Manusmriti says that you should not even cross the shadow of your Guru and all revered entities. Of course, there is no question of toppling over or jumping over Guru, etc. But even his Chaya also you should not cross. And all revered ones, Deva, Rutvig, Snataka, Acharya, Rajna, Rajan. So Deva, Rutvik means the priest, Snataka, a graduate, Acharya, the teacher, Rajna means the king, Chaya, Parastiha, and the reflection of the other woman. Chayam na akramed. You should not in fact cross that chaya, you should not walk over that chaya. Chaya also as respectable as those of whose reflect or whose shadow it is. So you should not cross or walk over. Walking over a shadow, walking over your acharya or whoever's shadow it is. Meaning that this is how shadow is equated to the acharya, snataka, deva, rutvik. So it's real. That's the idea. So from this Smriti, this is from the Yajnavalkya Smriti. First was the Manusmriti. Nakramet kamatas chayam gurvadehe Manusmriti. The other verse is from the Yajnavalkya. But in short, these revered sages say that the shadow is as revered as the one of whose shadow it is. When it said that you should not cross the shadow of your teacher or of a Devata means a divine being, Devata means, or other, revered people, that means that the shadow is as great or as reverential as the entity. And that can only shadow is real. So from this they derive that shadow also is a reality. Had it not been reality, why should they ask you to avoid it? So the chaya also is reality, the chaya is samsara, chidabhasa is samsara. Some kind of reasoning. न केवलं श्रुति वचनादेव छाया वस्तुत्वगम अस्ति अन्यच्च कारणम माधुर्यादि. Other reason also is but reflect a chaya means shadow is real. What's the madhuryadi? Chayayam asinasya mukhe madhuryopalabdehe shaityopalabdeshchayati. A person who is sitting in a shadow experiences coolness and therefore you see pleasantness on his face. That could not be unless the chaya, the shadow was real. Therefore, shadow also is real. Therefore, reflection also is real. Therefore, chidabhasa is real, and that is samsari. Some kind of argument anyway. Then, other opinions are said in next verse. Jnekadesho vikaro va tadabhasashayah pare ahankartaiva samsare Swatantra iti kechana. Jna ekadesha. Jna means knowledge or consciousness. Ekadesha, a part of consciousness. Jnasya chis sadananda paramatma ekadesha. An amsha or a part of the consciousness is samsari. That's another opinion. Where do you get that? Mamayvamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Lord Krishna says, my fraction acts as a samsari in this world. So amsha, Lord Krishna clearly says, mama amsha. Therefore, so jiva, what is jiva bhuta? Who is jiva? Mama amsha jiva. Jiva bhuta means of nature of jiva. Mama evamsho jiva bhuta. My amsha, my part itself is jiva. Jna ekadesha, a spark of, a part of consciousness, a spark of consciousness is jiva. It is smriti, that's one opinion. Chidabhasa is samsara is one opinion. The part of fraction of consciousness is samsara is another opinion. Agni visfulinga dushtantena sarveva atmana vicharanti rishvate paramad vikaro va. Well, the Upanishad gives the example of how the countless sparks emerge from blazing fire, so all these sentient, insentient entities all emerge from consciousness as Atma. So now this spark is looked upon as vikara of fire. Not as part of fire, but here vikara of fire. Therefore, the example of the fire and spark, which is found in more than one place in the Upanishad, here the quotation is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. But anyway, the Mundaka Upanishad also we have that example. But the spark is considered to be a vikara or a modification of fire. Therefore, Jivatma is vikara, modification of consciousness. Iti eke. Tat abhasashraya pare. Yat abhasa ashraya pare tu. Other people say what? Tat abhasa ashraya. Ashraya, the very locus of the reflection, like the mirror. Here aham vritti. So aham vritti is samsari. So says paretu tadabhasa ashraya chidatma abhasa vish ahankara eva samsari. One says reflection is samsari. Other one says that where the reflection takes place is samsari. The mirror is samsari. Aham vritti is samsari. Aham vritti is samsari. Reflected conscious samsari. Chidatma bhasa vishishta ahankara eva samsari. Where did you get that? That samsari is tanmano disham paditva iti shrutehi ityahuhu. Chandogya Upanishad says how that manaha, call it pranaha, manaha, jivatma, just as a bird flies. So bird that is tied to its bond flies in different directions and comes back to where it is tied to. So Jivatma, the waking and dream states, it flies in all different directions and then it comes back to its own Swarupa in the deep sleep state. Therefore, that ahankara, aham vritti samsari. Where reflection takes place, that ahankara or aham vritti samsari, or the reflection that takes place is samsari, or a part of reflection is samsari, or modification of reflection is samsari. Ahankarata eva samsari bhattastu bhattadimatam aha. The Kumarila Bhatta. No, the Kumarila Bhatta is own following. And his disciple has another following, So when that disciple is called Guru. So Guru Mata. Anyway, so Bhattadimatam. The Mata opinion of Bhatta is that Ahankarta eva samsari. So aham vritti samsari. The reflection aham vritti samsari. And other opinions are there. Part is with samsari, modification samsari. Iti ahankaradeva samsari swatantraha na paramatma amshadirupa. Meaning that Chidavasa is not amsha of Paramatma. Chidavasa swatantra is independent, and therefore even the ahankara itself, which ahankara should include Chit anyway, so that is samsari. All these opinions exist, and they are just taken up here to dismiss them in order to have a conviction that it is Atma who is in real samsari. Atma is samsari, Atma gets liberated. So bondage also is a projection, liberation also is projection, Atma is what it is. So this we must remember, that Vedanta says that Brahman is samsari, or Atma is samsari. Because of what? Because it appears to be in Upadi, Avidya, Ahankara, etc. Even that appearance, and that there is an adhyasa, that I-ness is superimposed upon that. And that is why Atma becomes as though samsari, because it is nature of Atma or consciousness to be reflected in Avidya, Antahkarana, Ahamvritti, etc. And further, there is this Bhranti that reflection is I, the I-ness is superimposed. Because of this, Atma as though becomes samsari. As you said, the Bhrantijam Tadatmyam, that I-ness, identification with Chidavasa is what has to be removed. Chidavasa will remain. Because it is sahajam. That reflection will take place because that's the nature of the avidya and antahkarana to reflect consciousness. But to take the reflection as I is a problem. And that is, so we must be very clear about what's the nature of Jivatma, what the real problem is, and so what the real solution is. Solution will always be determined by the nature of problem. And since different thinkers look upon problem differently, what is the cause of sadness? And if that cause is thought, considered differently, solutions are all different. Vedanta says only cause of sadness is this adhyasa, ignorance. So that is what you should remove to become free from sadness. You can remove many other things and sadness may remain as long as basic cause remains. So once basic cause is understood, then we work for removing that cause and not something else, Bauddhamatamaha. Alright, Bauddhamata is said in the verse 36. Ahankara santana samsari nanvayi prathaka ityevam saugata ahuhu tatra nyaya vicharyata. In the Bauddhamata, ahankaradi santana samsari. Santana means a series of, the momentary consciousness. An unbroken flow of momentary consciousness is samsara. Because the Buddhas do not accept an abiding reality. They do not accept anything as nitya or eternal or abiding. Sarvam kshanikam. For them, kshanikatvam or momentariness is real. Vedantin says momentariness. How did you arrive at momentariness? For determining anything, you must have a witness. So when you experience momentariness, you say that there is everything is momentary. There is someone who says that. Someone who experiences momentariness, who is not momentary because otherwise he could not experience. This is Vedanta, what Vedanta is. But they say no. Nanvai prasaka, there is no witness. That is why they say sarvam swasamvedyam. For knowing that momentary consciousness, you do not need someone else. That itself is swasamvedyam. It is self-revealing, self-knowing. In short, for knowledge you did not require knower. Because this is self-revealing. Momentary consciousness knows itself as momentary consciousness. Vedanta doesn't accept it. This is what they say. So, no anvai, prasak anvai. Anvai. So says the anvai means the one who witnesses. Anvai means one who is connected with it. Anvaya means the connected. But we always say that the witnessed is always connected with the witness. The existence of anything can be determined only when you are witness. Asakshikam, non-witnessed, nothing can be established that is not witnessed. So if there is nobody to say that or witness the momentariness of consciousness, how did you arrive at this? But they do not see the need of accepting a witness of moment. Then you would accept something nitya. If you accept witness of momentariness, then witness cannot be momentary. Then everything is momentary, that theory will not work. Therefore, they accept kshanikatvam, momentariness, only as ultimate reality. And that is swasamvedyam, that it knows by itself. Therefore, you do not need a separate witness to determine the momentariness. So Tika says santana. Santana means a series. Avirala udayataya avichinnani kshanika jnanani. That virala means avirala unbroken. Avirala udayataya avichinnani kshanika jnanani. In fact, when you say momentary consciousness, how do you determine momentary? One moment must be separate from other moment for you to say that this is momentary, is it not so? In that case, second moment is not connected to first moment. He says, avirala udayataya. There is unbroken connection, there is unbroken arising of the moments. How can you call it second moment when it is not distinct from the first moment? But avirala udayataya avichinnani kshanika jnanani. Even though they call it jnanam, consciousness, momentary, but there is no break between two moments. That is the unbroken manifestation arising of this momentary consciousness. Atma, that momentary consciousness of which a sequence is going on constantly, unbroken series or unbroken, is Atma, is samsari. But how do you know? So, nanvai prasak. So we say that the one who knows that it is samsari says no. Na tada prasak anvai. In short, there is no anvai, there is no one connected with that, there is no witness other than the momentary consciousness to determine momentariness. Momentary consciousness determines its own momentariness. Anvai ekah vijnana utpatti vinasha drashtasти. There is no anvai, there is no one connected, no witness, which is drashta or the witness of the utpatti, the arising of consciousness, subsiding of consciousness, momentariness of consciousness. There is no witness, it is momentary, self-knowing. Evam saugataha ahuhu, sugata. One who has gone very, so Buddha is called sugata. Sushtu gataha, who has gone very well. And the way his followers are called Saugatas, So, Saugataha Ahu Ityartha. This is what the Buddhas, one school of Buddha says. Doesn't go to Shunya, etc. here, but anyway, Ukteshu Paksheshu. So these are the various opinions that have been stated here. Vastu Vishayatvat, Virodhacha, Vikalpa, Samuchayo, Asambhavat. In each one of them, the Vastu, the samsari is different in each one. And Virodhat, each one is opposed to the one says that reflection is samsari, the reflect medium is samsari, the momentary conscious is samsari, a part is samsari, a modification of ikara is samsari. Each one thinks that samsara is different from what other people say. So, vastu vishayatvat. In each case, the vishaya or the entity which samsara is different in each case. Virodhacha, each one is opposed to the other one. Each one dismisses the other one. Therefore, vikalpa, samuchaya, samavad, it cannot be one or the other, or it cannot be all of them together. Each one is independently samsari. This is the opinion. Anyatamaseva kasya. Therefore, you have to accept, as far as these opinions are concerned, you have to accept one of them, not all of them. Well, why not all of them samsari? No, because each one of them is different and each one of them opposes the other. Why not two of them? No. So each one is different and opposed to each other, excludes others. Therefore, neither together or in combination they can be samsari, meaning that in each case, each opinion has to be accepted independently as the samsari. Anyatame kachidupa. Therefore, we have to accept only one of them as samsari of all these opinions. Athva asmaduktasya brahma eva avidya ahankaradi gata avasa avivekat samsari. Or, so you accept any one of these opinions as samsari or accept our opinion, our view. What is it? Asmaduktasya, what we said, Brahma eva samsari. That Brahma alone is samsari, Atma alone is samsari. How can Atma become samsari? As though avidya ahankaradi gata avasa avivekat. Because of ignorance, the adhyasa superimposition, and therefore that chidavasa, which appears to reflect ahankara, is taken to be Atma by aviveka, and therefore really Atma alone appears as chidavasa, is taken as the samsari, and so that is our opinion. Atma is samsari. That is our opinion. How? Because of aviveka. Because of not being able to distinguish between Atma and chidavasa. So chidavasa is taken to be Atma, and therefore Atma on account of identification chidavasa becomes the samsari. So there are different opinions are there, and this opinion, ours is also there. Iti nirdharana. Now what will be your conclusion? Nyaya vicharyatam, attatra nyaya vicharyatam. You do now subject each one of the opinions to the scrutiny of reasoning and see which one stands the reasoning. That has to be accepted as a siddhanta. So these options are presented by the teacher for us to gain clarity. That only Atma can be samsari, no other opinion actually can withstand the scrutiny of reasoning. Only one view, our view, that Atma or Brahman alone is samsari, that alone can withstand the scrutiny of reasoning. So, nyaya vicharyata, let us now scrutinize the opinions. All right. Prasangikim samsara chintam hitva. So this samsara chinta, so prasangiki. Because of we are discussing the samsari, therefore it became necessary for us also to consider the opinion of other people Because whenever you talk of any topic, other people always spring up there and there you have to account for them, otherwise, but what about that, Swamiji? When Sita became Harana, how did she become Sita? This kind of thing, So, when Sita became Harana, or deer, when did she become Sita back? So, those opinions exist, you have to consider them, otherwise that follows over this. Otherwise, in his mind, he will continue to entertain that opinion, unless it is clear. So, one of the jobs that the teacher has to do is to scrutinize also the prevalent opinions. Because the listeners already have the exposure to those opinions. And they may think that they are also right, and so this is also right. That they are wrong also must be clearly explained. Then only that this is right becomes clearly understood. So next one says, Samsarinam kathatvastam prakrutam tvadunochyate mukhabhasoya adarshe dharmo nanytarasya sah dvayorekasya ched dharmah viyukte anyatare bhavet. Samsarinam katha to astam. This is all katha of samsari. So let's put it aside. You raised all of this and now you say, put them aside. All right. Prakritam tu adhana uchyate. We don't get confused. We do not want to get confused by them. Let us come to our main topic, Prakritam. Mukhabhasoya adarshe dharma nanyatarasya saha. Adarsheya mukhabhasa, the reflection which is seen in the mirror. It is not the dharma of anyatara, it is not dharma of mukham, nor is it dharma of the reflection. Two entities are there. Tayoho ekasachet dharma, if mukhabhasa is dharma of the mirror or of the atma, then vyukte, when they are separated, then it should remain. If mukhabhasa is the dharma of mirror, then even if the face is not there, mukhabhasa should be there. If mukhabhasa is dharma of the mukham, then even if the mirror is not there, mukhabhasa should remain. The reflection cannot be the dharma of the mirror or the face, because if it was the nature of the mirror or attribute of mirror, then mukhabhasa should remain even when the face is not there. If mukhabhasa was the attribute of face, then it should remain mukhabhasa, even mirror is not there. So we cannot say that mukhabhasa is the attribute of mukham or mirror. So that is a statement here. We will continue our discussion in next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.